So, shall we begin?
It definitely makes it a much more professional way to look at a cut. I mean, you're really not looking at things in a really raw state when we do finally sit down and look at the movie all cut together.
We have this 5.1 sound mix going on concurrently with our cuts. Why it's great is like I can look at a cut and it lets me know what's working, what's not working, because I see all the elements, and there won't be any of us going, oh, no, that's going to be better when we get the sound effect in, or oh, that's going to be better when, that looks blue instead of green. Fantastic.
It's a completely different way of looking at picture and looking at sound and how you manipulate the media. I'm using Pro Tools 10 with Pro Tools HD Native, locked up with an Avid Mojo DX with Media Composer 6.5. There's a software called Video Satellite that I'm using to link the two with an Ethernet connection. And the timeline's locked together and I can run Pro Tools and Media Composer in sync with each other. That ends up being a huge benefit to us.
We don't have to stop. We don't have to, bring in stems, and the editors just keep working with their tracks, and we just follow behind them and keep it smooth and sounding great.
By doing a temp mix, and this is essentially, instead of cramming it all into a week, you're doing it over a series of weeks where it's design and mix, design and mix, design and mix, with some cutting in between there as well from the picture department. And it's a very natural, organic way to have the soundtrack evolve.
We realized at various points that we were kind of perhaps the only ones or the first ones doing this. Like we didn't really know anybody else that was doing it, and hopefully more people are doing it now, or maybe even were when we were, but we didn't know anyone, so we were just kind of making it up as we went along. And it was a ton of fun because anytime we wanted to screen, no matter where the mix was at any given point, it was like, okay, well, we can listen to that. It's gonna be better than listening to it in just a 2-track mode. But the brilliance of the workflow, which certainly isn't our brilliance, but that of the software designers, is that the editors could revert back into a 2-track mode with the exact same sequence and listen to it on 2 speakers, and there's no problem. It sounds perfect. Flip it over to 5.1 mode when we're in the theater, and we listen to it in 5.1. It's really an incredible workflow.
So it's often said that editing is the final rewrite of a film, and obviously JJ is the writer in a lot of his projects. Does that make it easier for him or a little bit harder in editorial to make story changes? Should you be presenting to him like, I think maybe it'll work better if we head in this direction?
He is so flexible and not precious about the writing at all. And say a shot that took a long time to set up and he was thinking was going to be one of his favorite shots, if it's not contributing, if it's getting in the way of something, we rearrange the scene so that only the good pieces are in it, and we have a scene that seems organic and that feels like it was written to be this. It's a really fun part of the job, actually. I mean, that's when you get really creative, is trying to figure out how to make a scene do something that it wasn't originally designed to do.
Can you give us an idea of what the editorial setup is for Star Trek II and the overall workflow, what you get and then what you hand off?
Sure. We have basically a big chunk of the film is shot on film. There's a mixture of film formats that we have on this particular project. Most of it is 35 4-perf CinemaScope, and then we have a couple of other formats. We have 65mm 15-perf and 65mm 8-perf, and then we also have a very tiny amount of VistaVision. We have a mixture of Red camera footage and Alexa footage, and all of those different elements need to sort of technically be worked through and tested at the beginning, make sure everything, is going to flow nicely. But there's just nothing like the look of film. It's the grain that's there, the quality that's there, the sort of organic motion as it runs through a projector in the movie theater. There's just something fantastic about it. Now, that's not to say digital is fantastic as well. It looks great. It has a lot of fantastic things about it as well. But for some reason, there's just nothing like the quality of film.
There are some directors that they sit down with an editor and they know what they like or what they don't like, but they don't know the real editorial process or how you're going to have to enact this change they're asking for. Mm-hmm. Where does he fall into the mix? Is he pretty in tune with the technology and the process, or is he just sort of very just story-oriented and just saying, I like this, I don't like that?
That's funny. He's very technically oriented, and he's very story-oriented, and he's very happy to let me do my thing, and however I accomplish it. Our interaction is mostly about story. But occasionally on the set, he would call me and say, look, I put together a cut on my iPad. This is going to work. And I'll be like, great, just, send it on over. I'd love, if you already made it work, don't let me stop you.
We have to find this thing. I don't feel good about this.
Go! I saw it. No one believes me.
I believe you.
Is there a difference between editing a film project versus a TV project, and why does it seem to be so hard for a TV editor to make that transition to film?
Well, I don't think it's as hard as it used to be. I think it used to be really difficult, but I do know people that work in both genres now. I remember Garth Craven, who's a terrific editor, saying to me once that every cut that you make makes the next cut better, that every cut that you make makes you a better editor, and boy, you make a lot of cuts in TV, where features, you're cutting a lot for a while and then you're stepping back and you're working with visual effects, and maybe you're working with sound, maybe you're in a stage where you're watching the movie a lot to try to determine if you got the structure the best. But in TV, you don't go on and work with visual effects. You don't move on and work with sound or with music or anything like that. You're just cutting every single day. And as soon as you get one episode locked, the dailies are already rolling in for another one.
I don't know that I could have gotten the kind of editorial experience or directing experience or production experience that I got on Alias. It was like a crash course in here's how to make anything. You go through a lot of footage quickly, and you have to be very precise, and you don't have a lot of time to recut, and you got to get it out there, and it's got to be good, and it's got to be, you got a lot of competition, a lot more competition than feature films have. It's a lot harder job, and it's a lot more time consuming. It's great that I have that experience that I can bring to a bigger, larger format, and I do enjoy perfecting the one film and given the time to do it, and breathe it in and live it. And so I prefer editing features because of that.
Okay, this is a slight wrinkle. We're going to have to go into the server room from the outside.
We?
I'm on the computer.